Alright guys, we're gonna be reacting to Yarnhub's Rasputin video. This guy was fucking nuts.
Notorious as the Mad Monk, alleged lover of the Russian queen, and the man who wouldn't die, was a mystic who held considerable influence in the Russian court at a significant moment in Russian history. Many revered him.
I mean, we got one of these running like the Christian cult or whatever.
But many despised his influence, and this eventually became his undoing. He came from very humble beginnings and was born the son of peasants in Siberia during the winter of 1869. He was never formally educated and was largely illiterate. It seems he was a rather troubled youth, getting involved in petty crime and having a disrespect for the authorities. In 1887, at the age of 18, he got married after a courtship lasting for several months. In 1897, he left his family to go on a holy pilgrimage. There are various sources and explanations as for why he decided to go. One source says that he was leaving town to avoid being caught for horse theft, although other sources say he had a holy vision. Either way, he decided to leave his young family to travel. He wandered the land, visiting holy sites, became a vegetarian, and swore off alcohol. He would regularly return home on these wanderings and developed somewhat of an entourage. He would conduct secret prayer meetings.
What is this thing in the background? Is that Baba Yaga? What's up with the hedgehog?
Many of the locals, including the church, were suspicious and gossiped that Rasputin was ceremonially washed by his female followers, with whom he was also rumored to have more intimate relations.
Did he bathe at all?
Around 1903, Rasputin traveled to the then capital of Russia, St. Petersburg. He met with a number of church leaders who introduced him to the Russian royal family. The ruler and Tsar of Russia was Emperor Nikolai II. In 1904, his wife, the Empress Alexandra, gave birth to Alexei. He was their first son and as such was heir to the throne. Unfortunately, Alexei had inherited severe hemophilia through his maternal line. It was so extreme that a bruise or a nosebleed could be life-threatening. The family became convinced that Rasputin had divine power and could heal their son.
No, he's just doing her shit and
frequently
down.
became ill, and as desperate and concerned parents for their son's health, at some point they asked for Rasputin's prayers to help heal him. Alexei recovered the next morning. This happened on several occasions. The historian Mark Ferro, in his book Nikolai II, Last of the Tsars, wrote that because of his alleged healing powers, the Tsarina had a passionate attachment to Rasputin. The royal family had a grand hunting lodge in Spala, located in what is now Poland. Whilst there, Alexei had a hemorrhage in his thigh, brought about by a bumpy carriage ride. He was in severe pain and had a high fever. Things were looking grim for the young prince. Desperate to help her son, the empress sent a telegram to Rasputin asking him to pray for Alexei. His reply read,
"God has seen your tears and heard your prayers. Do not grieve. The little one will not die. Do not allow the doctors to bother him too much."
Within 2 days,
the doctors were probably like doing a bunch of stuff that would scare the kid, which would make his heart beat faster, which would like make his blood flow faster.
Alexei started to recover. After this episode, Rasputin gained an unassailable position of influence and privilege in the minds of the royal court. He was seen as a powerful mystic, and he alone had the power to cure the prince. Rasputin had celebrity status and lived how he wanted without care for his reputation or the reputation of the royal family. He was said to have a hypnotic stare that brought others under his spell. He said that sin and repentance were interlinked, and as such, he helped considerably with the sin side of the equation. During the early years of World War I, he became increasingly drunk, promiscuous, and accepted bribes for helping people with their spiritual crises. He was opposed to the war, and many people were fearful, including Russia's allies, that he could convince the royal family to remove the Russian forces from the conflict. He gained many enemies. With Russia at war against the Germans, Empress Alexandra's German ancestry was often raised in the media and in parliament. In the Duma, a speech was given by Vladimir Purushkevich. "The Tsar's ministers, who have been turned into marionettes whose threads have been taken firmly in hand by Rasputin and the Empress Alexandra Fyodorovna, the evil genius of Russia, and the Tsarina, who has remained a German on the Russian throne and an alien to the country and its people.
You know the racism.
Count Felix Yusupov attended the speech and afterwards contacted Purishkevich, and a plot was made for a solution to the Rasputin problem.
Murder.
On the 29th of December 1916, Rasputin was invited to Count Yusupov's palace, where he was taken to a room in the basement level. Like a good host, the Count offered Rasputin tea and cakes. These were, of course, poisoned. But to the Count's astonishment, they seemed to have no effect on Rasputin. So he was then offered some fortified wine. Like the cakes, the wine was also fortified with cyanide. Rasputin downed 3 glasses.
What if you, managed to, build up an immunity to various poisons, like that one Roman emperor did? He had to, do a more messy way of ending his life when he was set to be executed.
Again astonishing his hosts, as it had no apparent ill effects. At 2:30 a.m., the Count decided enough was enough. Referring to a cross on the wall, he told Rasputin,
"You should look at the cross and say a prayer."
and then shot him. Thinking they had solved their Rasputin problem,
No.
Yusupov had a co-conspirator wear Rasputin's hat and coat, and they proceeded to his home, leaving the dead, or so they thought, Rasputin, in the basement of the palace. After creating his alibi, Yusupov returned to the palace basement. Suddenly, Rasputin
Motherfucker
jumped
wasn't
up
dead.
and attacked Yusupov. Fleeing from the unholy site upstairs and into the palace courtyard, Yusupov was chased by Rasputin. A shot rang out, and Rasputin slumped into the snow.
Yeah, I honestly think that Rasputin was actually a really tough motherfucker to kill.
Conspirators wrapped him in a cloth, took him to a nearby bridge, and dropped him over the side. Following a river search a few days later, the remains were found. A short service at a small church was held that was attended by the Russian royal family. The Count and his wife escaped the Russian Revolution and went to live in France. In 1932, they sued MGM because of the film Rasputin and the Empress. In the film, the character that portrayed the Countess was seduced by Rasputin. They won the case, and the disclaimer, "The proceeding was a work of fiction. Any similarity to a person living or dead is purely coincidental," was put at the end of films because of this case.
Ha!
Rasputin had several children. Maria Rasputin escaped the Russian Revolution and moved to the United States. There she became a lion tamer and toured with a circus. The billing read, "The daughter of the famous mad monk, whose feats in Russia astonished the world."
Subscribe.
Yeah, I don't think Rasputin had any magical powers. He just had charisma. And I think he may have built up a tolerance to various poisons, which is why he wasn't, killed by the poison. I will see you guys in the next one.